Former Yankee Jim Leyritz every Wednesday at 5:15. The best of Jimmy today at 6:30 thanks to Red Wing Shoes. And Jimmy, last night the Yankees put up 21 runs, 11 runs through 2 innings, 15 runs through 3 innings. It was ridiculous. Does last night's offensive performance make you believe that this team has the offensive production to make them give them a good, solid playoff run?
Listen, it was one game. I have to see more consistency. See these guys against the number 1 starter, number 2 starter, be able to play some baseball. Well, the biggest thing that I see is when they're going to face the tough pitching, whether or not they can do this or not, and play some small ball and score some runs. Last night was great. I mean, it was nice for everybody to kind of break out and pad their numbers a little bit, but. Now we got to go. We've got to do this a little bit more consistency in these 3-0, 2-1 games.
Jim, when you look at the night before, Teixeira has that quote unquote meltdown, flips out in the dugout, so unlike him. Does that kind of add some personality to this team where we've been looking for, like, what's the personality of this team? Does a Teixeira breakout like that kind of tell you there is a little bit of personality there?
Well, that question was given to Joe Girardi, and Girardi said, it was asked, what do you see different with Teixeira this year? And he said the intensity level that he brings now. And that to him was something that was missing from before. And, he said the intensity that he brings on a day in, day out basis now is the reason why he's being more successful. And yes, getting more of a personality, which is something that we said all along, that, to play in New York, you got to be strong, you got to be, willing to take the heat, but also you got to be a guy that goes out there and plays hard every single day. And I think Teixeira is finally starting to do that.
Jim Leyritz, former Yankee with Armen Levack on 104.5 The Team. And Jimmy, every week we've talked about how this Yankees team we don't really know what they are yet. We don't know what they're all about. They don't really have a theme. They don't really have a great description to them. You feel like we've learned a lot more about this team since the beginning of the second half of the season?
Well, again, it reminds me of some of the teams that we had, that there was not that big name. I mean, there's nobody hitting over 300. Gardner's at 297. There's nobody, but they know how to win, and they don't feel like they're starting to get that attitude that they're not out of it to the last pitch. And I remember that's what kept our 96, 95 teams so good was, we knew after the 6th or 7th inning, we still had a chance to win that game. We could get to their bullpen and we could win. And I think this team is taking that same attitude that, hey, listen, it's never, like Yogi would say, it's never over till it's over. And I think they're riding that confidence right now as high as it can be. And I'm hoping that's something that they can continue to do, because you don't want them to peak too soon, because they want them to peak before they go into the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. But I think it's great. 15 games above 500. These guys are playing some pretty good baseball.
Is there any fear of kind of a letdown after a game where you throw 21 runs on the board?
Well, it's one of the things that, I think Girardi probably drills into their heads is you're only as good as your next day starter. So that was kind of, I think, handed down by Joe Torre. And one of the things that made everybody feel comfortable was, okay, yeah, we won that game, but okay, now we got to turn the page. What are we going to do the next day with the new starter? I think that's kind of the same attitude Joe has drilled into these guys.
Jim Leyritz, former Yankee, 2-time World Series champion with Armen Levack, thanks to Red Wing Shoes. Jim, as you see Alex Rodriguez at 40 years old do the things that he is doing offensively, how do you put it into words? What is your reaction to that?
Well, it's one of those things that, I'm 51 years old, but I feel like I'm 35. I think the 40-year-old range that people take a look at and say that's kind of old for a player. Guys like Alex Rodriguez who've always taken care of their bodies, always done stuff that, and are hard workers. I think we're going to start seeing more guys play into their late 30s, early 40s, because these guys, like I said, I've said many times before, these guys take care of themselves much better. And, the year-and-a-half layoff, even though that seems like an eternity for us as far as looking from the outside, it was a year that he was able to let his body, heal and restore and find different ways, because he couldn't use whatever he was alleged to be using. He couldn't use that anymore. And he was able for this last year to figure out a new way to keep his body in great shape. And again, you look at the results, you can't argue with it. And he's done a great job.
So sticking
and
with
I never thought I would be saying that.
It is shocking, right? I mean, what he's doing, it is shocking.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think one of the biggest things, though, guys, is he's able to be just a DH. And I can tell you from all my years of DH, and when I finally left the game in 2003 to come to take care of my kids, I felt like I still could have had, and I think I was 36 or 37 at the time, I still think that I could have played another 4 or 5 years as a DH, as a pinch hitter off the bench. The thing that's going to save him is being able to do just this DH. And I think he could play another 3 or 4 years like that.
Should he be considered as MLB comeback player of the year? He's not coming back from an injury. He's coming back from a needle.
Well, he's coming back from a suspension. Yeah, exactly.
Because of the needle, right?
I don't know how much that would weigh on the decision as far as, in reality, despite whatever it was, as a guy that was out of the game for a whole year has come back. He's got to have consideration. The one thing that I haven't looked at yet is what other guys who have come back from surgeries or come back from more devastating issues, if there's a couple of those guys in the running. I haven't looked at that yet. But as far as A-Rod, I mean, I think you have to give it consideration because just like every other expert in this game, no one predicted that the Yankees would be where they're at. No one would predict where A-Rod is, what he's doing. And those two things are happening. You can't ignore them. And so there has to be some consideration.
Sticking with the old guys, Teixeira's doing really well. A-Rod's doing well. They're kind of up in age. How much concern do you have that somebody at that age, the second half of the season, as you get into August and September, that they slow down a little bit? How much of a beating is the Major League Baseball season?
Well, it's a beating. The travel, everything else. But the one thing, this is where it puts a lot of pressure on Brian Cashman. When you look at this team, this is a now team, not a later team. And you need to find somebody that plays second base that can hit a little bit and play good defense.
Well, you talk about that need at second base. So let me ask you, Jim Leyritz, you're on the ground, you see it all. What is that one trade that the Yankees have to make to continue to be an elite team?
Well, I think it's a Prado. I think it's it's a guy that is not someone that you're going to have to give up the farm system for, with these guys being so close to being ready, and realizing that the team that you have right now, there's only 1 or 2 more years left for some of these guys. You need those guys that are down there right now in the minor leagues to be ready to step in. So I think, again, it's not a big trade. It's not a big name, but I think this is someone that the Yankees have to consider bringing in. That could help them out.
Not a big trade, not a big name. Is it enough? Is it enough for the Yankees to compete against the Royals, who have added some good pieces, and Zobrist in the bullpen as well? The Blue Jays have been making moves. They upgraded at shortstop. Is just Martin Prado enough for the Yankees to really make a playoff run?
Well, I think so. I think we kind of saw that with the Cueto situation. If they really needed a front row starter, I think they would have gone after him. Hamels is out there. Who knows what they're going to do? He's a possibility. But the one thing that I was looking back today, and the one thing that I looked about all these championship teams that we were on back then, we had 2 strong lefty starters. It was Jimmy Key and Andy Pettitte. It was David Wells and Andy Pettitte. It was the Yankees always had those 2 solid left-hander starters. And they don't have that right now. So is there a package they could put together for David Price? Maybe Ref Snyder. I know Greg Bird supposedly is untouchable, but maybe him, maybe Gary Sanchez. You got to look at the rosters and figure out, is there, to me, the only guy that I go after if I'm going after a big name is a left-handed starter that could give me 2 strong lefties or 2 good lefties to be starting every third or fourth day.
Jim, you bring up the prospects. They've got this untouchable list we're hearing about with Severino, Judge. We're hearing Bird and Mateo also on that list. Is that too many untouchable prospects to make the kind of deals they're going to need to move forward?
Well, again, I look at Judge, I look at Mateo. Those are two positions that the Yankees are going to be needing here in the next couple, and even in the next year or so. They're going to need these kids to come up and be ready to play. So I don't think, I think the untouchable for those two is that, and Severino, of course, is exactly what the Yankees need to do. But the Bird, the Sanchez, and some of these other pitching prospects that they have in the minor leagues, I think could be a package they could put together to make a deal for a David Price or someone like that.
Former Yankee Jim Leyritz joins us every Wednesday at 5:15, playing you the best of Jimmy Leyritz in the 6 o'clock hour today as well. Jimmy, what are you up to this week, my friend?
When I got to be home for the last 6 or 7 days, get to catch up with Phoenix. Matter of fact, I'm at his rehab right now. He's rehabbing his Tommy John right arm. So just getting caught up on some family time, and I've got to turn around and lead again on Saturday and go back to New York. So it's a short stay at home, but just like I said, it's good to catch up on some family time.
Good stuff, man. Jim Leyritz. Go to jimleyritz.com for more information on where he's at and the foundations that he believes in as well. TheGreatestSave.org for more on that. And Jimmy Leyritz is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes in Clifton Park Center. Presented by Red Wing Shoes. We're just like the Yankees. Excellence is a standard. Visit them at cliftonpark.redwingshoestore.com. They can fit your feet, your job, your hobby, and your wallet. Jim, enjoyed it this week, and hopefully next week we'll be talking about a great move or two that the Yankees made at that deadline.
Exactly. Well, I'll be coming to you live from New York, so we should have a pretty good show, and we'll know a lot more by then.